Did ancient China reverse engineer commercial silk making from India, just like it has done with US technology in recent times? Namaskar. My name is Ajay Sharma. Welcome to a new episode of the Kafirnama. Did China copy silk making secrets from India? Before you dismiss it off as a ridiculous claim, let us carefully study the evidence that confronts us, and not just from one source, but three different angles. Ancient silk manufacture has been synonymous with China for many centuries now. However, what put the first seed of doubt into the China's claim as the originator of silk production was the discovery of ancient silk threads at Indus Valley civilization sites at Harappa, Chanhudaro, and Nevasa in modern-day Maharashtra. These were found to be 3,500 to 4,500 years old. In comparison, the earliest dating of silk in China goes back to 6,000 plus years. You would think, case closed. China started making silk earlier than India. But this is only the beginning of our story. The discovery of ancient silk threads in India spurred further investigations. What came about was that the silkworms used in ancient China versus ancient India came from two entirely different families. While China used primarily Bombyx mori, ancient Indians used various Anthria species. Why is this distinction so important in our discussion? Around 220 BC, the ancient Chinese shifted to Anthria permia to mass rear it for commercial production of silk. Now this raises two important points. Point one is that ancient China only started mass manufacture of silk using Anthria permia in 220 BC and not earlier. How does it compare to India? The earliest reference to commercial silk manufacture in India comes from the Ashtadhyayi, the legendary treatise on Sanskrit grammar written by Panini and dated sometime between 600 to 480 BC. Even at the lowest approximation of its dating at 480 BC, the Ashtadhyayi reference to silk manufacture in India predates that of China as per China's own records by 250 years. What gives further boost to this observation is that the Ashtadhyayi only mentions crochet silk manufactured in India, while the Arthashastra, written 200 to 300 years later, mentions both the crochet and the chinapatta manufactured in China. It is then very obvious that the chinapatta had entered Indian markets by the time the Arthashastra was written, thus confirming the Chinese chronology of commercial manufacture of silk using Anthria permia. And here is where we get to the second point. Why did the ancient Chinese shift to mass rearing Anthria permia? To get to the answer, we need to delve deep into why ancient Indians were using Anthria species to make silk. To begin our conversation on this point, the Anthria species used in India to make silk were living in the wild. Hence, ancient Indian silk is also referred to as wild silk. In comparison, the silkworms used in China were traditionally grown in captivity. However, scientific research has proved that the Anthria species used in India were not wild as commonly touted and believed to be, but semi-cultured, meaning the ancient Indians had actually biologically innovated the parent wild species Anthria royalea to create new species that were then released in the wild and subsequently lured to come back and lay their cocoons in a chosen focus area by attracting them to different food sources. This point is critical in our discussion on the Chinese copying silk making secrets from India. Now, why would that be? The Anthria species are polyphagous, meaning they feed on different food plants. So it was easy for the ancient Indians to actually mass rear Anthria species in the wild by attracting them to different food plants. In comparison, the Bombyx mori is actually monophagous. It feeds on only one food, fresh mulberry leaves. So just imagine how difficult it would have been for ancient Chinese to mass rear a silkworm that was so fussy that it ate only one food, fresh mulberry leaves. So the ancient Chinese adopted the learnings of ancient Indians and shifted to mass rearing Anthria pernia so as to achieve commercial scale in silk production and export silk to Europe. Now, does that thinking ring a bell somewhere? Our third piece of evidence, however, is the clincher. We have spoken extensively about silkworms and have used modern biological names to refer to them. But what about the names used for them in China, the supposed originator of silk production? And here comes the real shocker. Anthria pernia, the silkworm used to make ancient Chinese silk, is called the Chinese tushar moth. And ancient Chinese silk is called Chinese tushar silk. Now, why is this a shocker? Why is this the clincher? Well, there is no Chinese etymology or meaning to the word tushar. It's a word borrowed from Sanskrit, where it has a specific etymology and meaning. The Sanskrit word trashara means shuttle, and its earliest known usage is in the Rig Veda. Now, the Western dating of the Rig Veda is 1800 BC. That is contested by many Indian scholars who believe the Rig Veda was written thousands of years earlier. However, even if we consider the Western dating of the Rig Veda, the usage of the word trashara in India predates that in China by at least 1,000 years. So does it now sound ridiculous that China supposedly invented commercial silk production and yet named the silk and the silkworm being used with a Sanskrit word? Unless, of course, it imported many elements of commercial silk manufacture from India along with the terms then prevalent in India. Over the last 4 episodes, we have dealt many truth blows to China's biggest claim to fame in history, the invention and export of silk. We will deliver the knockout punch in many of our subsequent episodes on this subject. We hope you enjoyed the series. Please do like and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to the Kafirnama to get regular updates on new series that we plan to launch very soon. Jai Bharat.